Hi, I'm Mike with the Daily BM. On this episode, instead of the usual Flick Friday, we're going to switch it up to Fitness Friday with special guest Brandon Mancini. This is a great episode. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And remember, like and subscribe.
Hey, good morning, fuckers, and welcome to another day at the Daily BM while we listen to Brandon hammer away at his keyboard. All right. And what's going on, Mikey?
What's up, everybody? As you can tell, we have a special guest with us again today, Brandon.
It's so funny,
Is it Mancine or Mancini?
It's Mancini. So traditionally,
Mancini, that's what I thought.
Oh, so you just spelled it wrong, but you said Mancini.
No. Traditionally, it's Mancini. Traditionally,
Yep.
right? If we're back in Italy, when my great grandparents came over, it was every name was getting Americanized. So it's Mancine when they signed it at Ellis Island, and there you go.
So in other words, now you're gonna just create a symbol and call yourself like Prince, then down the road, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
That's,
so Brandon will be now the symbol.
So Brandon Mancini. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was Mancini as the last name.
I made fun of him. I was like, it's Mancine. He spells it Mancine. And he was like, no, it's Mancini. I was like, no, it's not.
I was like,
when I was in boot camp,
I think there was an Ellis Island thing right there somewhere in there.
When I was in boot camp, my drill instructor read it as Manson, and so I got nicknamed the Son of Charles, and then I had to
Son of Charles.
I had to do push-ups for all the deaths. So.
Oh my God, the trauma you went through.
Well, thank God he just didn't make you put a swastika across your forehead. I mean, you were good to go, and then you know what I mean? Because then it was a whole different animal.
It was boot camp in the '90s, man. It was a bit different.
Yes, the '90s.
Yeah,
it wasn't when you would have been in boot camp, Brad.
Yeah, I know, because I was like during World War II, so hey, shit happens, right? Hey. Yeah. So hey, I make killing trout's a living. What can I say? No, I'm just kidding.
I think if you'd have been drafted, you would have rode an elephant into the battle.
An elephant. Why would I be doing an elephant?
Because you were like Spartan times, like Persian invasion.
Yeah. 2 words today for you, Mikey. Fuck you. How's that?
Oh man.
I have a feeling that's a pretty consistent message you send his way.
Every day, every day. I don't feel like my life's complete unless I get a "fuck you, Mike." Like in my life, it's like I have to see how fast I can get one. Every day.
Yeah, it's like addictive. It's like sex and drugs. That's how it is for Mike if he doesn't get that.
It's like I've noticed I've accomplished something when he can say "fuck you, Mike."
So Brandon, we had you on last week and we were talking about general fitness and things like that. We had some questions. Leading up to you coming back, because we obviously had started your program, just the other day, and
yes, sir.
So I have a question. Now I didn't realize because I'm an idiot by nature. So I didn't realize
by nature.
By nature, I know, right? I'm an idiot by nature. Damn, Mom. But anyway, so that being said, I didn't realize that there were videos that you made in your app that you put in there. So I was sitting there going, oh, is this just a general walk? And he was like, Mike's like telling me, no, dude, there's like a set where you're supposed to walk. And I was like, well, how the hell do you not just walk? I'm like, what the hell is just walking? And he was like, no, there's
that's why it's called a walk protocol. He didn't say take it. He didn't say take a walk.
Best workout for you.
I just thought he was doing military talk. Fuck you guys, all right?
And then there's like a 4-minute video. I'm like, if he just wanted you to walk, I don't think you would have done a 4-minute video on him just taking a stroll down the neighborhood.
That's the whole reason why you never go down the rabbit hole of going to Google or the internet first. You know what I mean? Because I didn't realize you could click it and like watch a video of you talking about it, honestly. So I went to Google and it told me that one exercise, the Tabata plank or whatever it's called, Tabata plank, completely wrong what they were telling me on Google, man.
It's just a hit workout. It's just a hit workout.
I have no idea what
hit.
Yeah, what you followed there, because plank is an exercise, Tabata is a protocol, which is just a work-rest ratio.
Mm-hmm.
I could bore you with the details, but it's something a Japanese scientist learned that recruits the broadest range of muscle fibers. So it works for it's effective for core development. To put it brief and not be boring with a overly long explanation, which I feel like I'm getting into now anyway. So
No,
You're okay.
you're really well. Maybe
Plenty of
I don't know.
time.
So
it's nice to have someone intelligent on the show for a change.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, because Mike being here every day is completely the opposite. But so Mike, did you have a question for you want to kick us off? With something that you had.
Well, there's several questions, but first, I wanted to say a couple things. What is really amazing now is like the level of information that's available is almost staggering. And I think Brad pointed out my first question problem that you encounter, especially starting off in fitness, is like, how would you recommend somebody vets the information they're getting online? Because I've seen, like, it's interesting. I've seen people like Mini Beast. I don't know if you've ever followed her on Instagram or seen her. She's done videos on squats, and then I've seen other fitness influencers do videos of her videos saying what she's showing is wrong, and then another video of that influencer referencing back to the first video saying that she was right. So it's like there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
What would you recommend first for how do people should get the best information?
Man, there's like 3 separate questions in there.
Right.
Because context is important, right? There's a million different ways to do a squat.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of ways to do it wrong.
Right.
But there's no one way to do it right. There's, barbell back, barbell front squats. With back squats, there's high bar, low bar, overhead. And we're just talking about barbell.
Yeah, there's a million, a million different squats that do a million different things.
Right. And then, considering your current physical abilities, injuries, stuff like that, like what's the appropriate one for you to apply? So it's, I try not to I don't look at those videos, right? Because it's just it's like the purpose of a headline. It's not to get you to read the article anymore. It's to get the article shared, right?
Right.
So those type of videos, like they're gotcha videos. So, if it's a younger person, it's typically somebody yelling in the microphone, "Here's why you should never do this," right?
Yeah.
And you can find those everywhere, all contradicting each other, and they might have aspects of them that are right.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a million different things you can do to get into shape. This is like the real value in coaching and having a coach is, of all the different things you can do, what do you need to do next? Right? Just do that. It's, back to the I think it was Martin Luther King quote. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need the next step. And honestly, that's what you should focus on. You can think about the staircase, be motivated by where that staircase is going to take you, but your next step is the next step, and that's what you need to focus on. Nail that step, and then nail the next step, right? So, those videos are out there, but again, their goal is to get shared so the account can grow, so that the influencer can get paid by Instagram or TikTok or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe sell some other products. So that's, if you're using social media as your guide for getting into shape, man, I would love to if somebody has done that successfully, let me know. So I don't think that happens, right?
Yeah, the reason I brought that question up is because, like, you get somebody that's relatively new to fitness or getting back into fitness after a long hiatus, and you get bombarded with people saying, buy my program, buy my program, buy my program across the board. And it's more so because back, before the internet, typically what would happen is someone would want to go in shape, they would look for their local fitness club.
Yep.
And they would go to the fitness club, they would walk in, they would talk to somebody at the desk, they'd go to get signed up, they get some introductory courses with a personal trainer, at which point the personal trainer would try to sell them the services of training, and they would sign up and they'd get put into a program, and if they followed it, they'd probably have good results. 9 times out of 10. Now it varies depending on the place, location, the trainer, but that's basically the idea.
Yeah.
Now it's people jump online and they get hit with infomercial style commercials, people yelling at them, and they're like, let me sign up. Like the V-Shred guy. Like, I can't tell you, like a year ago, like I bought one of his programs just because it was on sale, Father's Day weekend. I was feeling shitty about myself. I was needing some type of guidance, got into it. And I really haven't gotten into much of it because I, tried to do one of the first workouts and I was so far out of shape that it was like impossible. And I was immediately defeated. I was immediately like, oh, Jesus, I can't do this. I'm not at this level. Like, I don't know what to do. I can't do these exercises. I don't know how enough knowledge to modify the exercises to where I can do them. So I think that goes well in hand to your point, like what you're saying, finding a coach
and
that you can trust.
If you're brand new, right?
Yeah.
It usually is best to have someone in person.
Yeah.
I've had people that I do in this format to start, and that can work. Obviously, I've had people be successful in this format.
Yes.
Being us, meeting on a like FaceTime or Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
But it won't replace in person. If somebody's brand new, if they've never worked out before, never played a sport. I had this woman years ago who, we were just what you described. She joined the gym. I never like to do the new person. I would do them because I love helping people, but they're defensive, right? When they're coming in and it's just kind of awkward. So I would help them as best I could, work through that awkwardness, and just try to get them at ease, try to make them comfortable.
Try to be there for them. Yeah.
There's one woman, I just remember her saying, it's like you're speaking in different language. The sentence you just said makes no sense to me. I was like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, I get it. She was, very educated in technology, which I've been resistant to for years. To go off on a little tangent, years ago when I was working in big box gyms, one of the young ladies that worked out in that gym came up to me and was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. And she was like, you're in so-and-so's video in the background, and showed me in the background of some influencer's video, right? Where she was doing some bullshit exercise. Like, and I was doing a free session with a disabled vet, like a guy I was really like he needed help. Man, I was, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, so just like, it was one of the like most fulfilling sessions I've had in a long time. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, she's like, look, you're in the back of, I'm not going to say her name, right? You're in the back of so-and-so's video. Like, look. It was like, great. Thank you for showing me that. Like, in my head, I'm like, oh, you get the fuck away from me. But but the past couple of years, a lot of stuff's gone online, and I've found I found ways to keep that personal connection with people through online training, like the course I'm taking you guys through, to help hold them accountable and not just check the box. For those of us who are bright enough to actually see that there's videos on there to follow the instruction, they can they can see those videos.
Here we go. I was waiting for the fucking jab.
If he would have just
he took the gloves off. All right, motherfucker, let's do this shit.
If he would have just read the introductory letter that starts.
Hey, on my defense, I was clicking that shit and it wasn't working. And I texted you
because you can't click on it. You can't click on it until the day you're in it.
He did click. He did text me saying something wasn't populating. But
because you can't. So basically, the way his program works, so that you guys, you can't skip ahead. You have to do the day that you're in. If you go forward, it won't let you read or do anything on forward days, because the goal is not to work ahead. I mean, I think that would be the goal. So that way you're not reading ahead, you're not getting ahead of yourself. You're actually absorbing the information for the day.
I agree. What I'm saying is I was clicking on the very first day, and I couldn't get the little document, the lesson to open.
Old people.
So I was like this. What the hell?
Old people problems.
All right, fuck you guys.
I had no
All right,
problem
well,
with it.
I'm gonna leave this to
But the
Brandon and
funny
Mike.
thing
I'm out
is-
for the rest of the day. You guys go ahead and run this shit. All right,
but the comedic part is he and I were on the phone together, and he was like, "Hey, what's a Tabata plank?" And I was like, "Oh, just watch the video on the app." I literally said it. He's like, "I'm googling it right now to see." I'm like, "It's on the app," and he's like, "I'm googling it," and I'm like, "Okay, do whatever you need to do, bro." It's like literally right there. You can do it alongside Brandon. Like you can see how it should be done correctly, and then you feel shitty about yourself because you're not doing it nearly as well.
Well, there's a lesson in there too. Like
No, I'm
shit
just kidding.
is going to
Yeah.
go wrong. It just
Yeah.
is, right? If like I think we might have talked about this last week, but it's important to. If I did, it's important enough to repeat.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm starting with somebody and I give them a plan, the expectation, the goal, the win is for you to get 50% of the work done that first week. Because you're most likely not going to get 100% of it done because kids are going to get sick. Boss is going to ask you to do something. The gym's going to shut down. There's going to be a thunderstorm, right? It million different things can and will happen. Murphy's Law. We all know it.
Right.
So if you can stay committed and get 50% done, the first week, that's a win. And the way it usually rolls out is I'll say that and people are like, all right, coach, but I'm going to get it all done. Man, I hope you do. Man, I hope you do. But if you get 50%, that's the win. And then usually, far more often than not, they come back that second week and they're like, oh, this happened. Again, the kid got sick. The boss said this, car, flat tire, whatever. I'll say, okay, well, let's look. And then normally they're in that like 50, 60% range. We're like, awesome. That's the win, man. Let's do it again, right? This week it's 60%. You're getting in the groove. Shit's going to go wrong, right? And if you, and this is where we're all victims of this, myself included, because as over the past few years, as I've been adopting technology, like my wife has told me, you just think this shit's going to be easier than it is. Like the same principle you tell your clients, you need to listen to. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. So, but it is, man. And that's like, we used to call it off when I was starting, like the dump truck of knowledge technique. You don't want to, like what you were just talking about, Mike, why you can't go forward in the program. Like, because a lot of people will.
They'll read ahead.
The
get
program's
overwhelmed.
intended to be bite-sized lessons that you can put into play today. You can create a win today instead of just doing more of this, sitting on your phone. Oh, I'm going to read tomorrow's lesson too. I'm going to read tomorrow's lesson too. I'm going to read the next day's lesson. And then you haven't done anything. You know more, or you've read more, but The
other thing I like about it too is it creates a daily habit because you're not able to read ahead and think you got the work done for the week. You have to do it daily. And that's the habit that you're trying to build is healthy habits daily.
Yeah,
so
man.
I like the subliminalness of the app for that.
I think it also like reiterates, the phrase was coming to mind to me was trust the process.
Yep.
So that's just 100% what came to me was just trust the process. It's like for me, it's like a 15-minute walk is like a piece of cake. I don't know. According to, I haven't been able to watch the video to see what the difference is with your walking. But
when you put this protocol into play, it's harder than you think.
Right.
But it's harder than you think it would be, and it improves your gait pattern. It improves your aerobic base, which helps you sleep better, helps you breathe better. It is again. There's a million different right ways to. There's a million different wrong ways. This specific protocol, I did not come up with. I stole from. I can't remember who I stole this one from, but I stole it.
Thief! Stop thief!
But it's the simple, effective tools you put into play on a daily basis that add up over time, that make the huge difference.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned that, but it's like the high knee run. I realized while doing that my arms and legs are out of sync. So what I noticed is like when one leg is up and back, the corresponding arm should be forward and up. So you're balancing your weight front to back. I understand the dynamics of it, but in my mind, my arms were always in the different, and either they weren't fully up at the same time. And I noticed that. And when I started really focusing on the slowing down and getting the form, that's when I started noticing that it was a mind-body connection that made it different, you know, and it was like watching those little nuances, and I could see how that can translate into your running, walking, everything, as it creates that balance.
Yeah, man.
So
It's physical education.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you look at professional athletes, whatever sport you want to pick, let's take football. What do they do when they practice? They run patterns over and over and over, so that the quarterback can throw to a point where there isn't anyone yet.
Yeah,
it all happens in time, right? And so it's the same thing in physical conditioning, strength and conditioning. Or as I say, get strong, do shit, right?
And the other, the other thing is like, okay, so, I'm 47 and I've had numerous injuries throughout my life. And one of the things that I'm realizing is, even though I used to work out in the past and I used to do things in the past, and you could probably attest to this too with your injury, your accident, that it's a lot different when you have to relearn stuff that you already knew. Like it really messes with your psyche a little bit, because you're like, I was able to do this, and now I'm not able to do it as well because I've got like mechanical limitations that I'm working through. So you're trying to get from point A to point B, and it's a completely different experience. It's almost like you're starting all over again. It's like almost like you're learning the movement again.
Yeah,
and
man.
Feeling.
There's two things that come to mind when you talk through that. One, and every time I say this, somebody comes back with, holy shit, I really connected with that, is the test is not the work, right? Yeah. So like in a powerlifting competition, it's squat, bench, and deadlift, right? But if you think that those powerlifters, that's all they do is squat, bench, and deadlift, then of course they do that to test how their progress is going, but the work isn't happening in 1 rep maxes day by day, right? It's rep ranges, it's assistance work to address weak points, right? So the test is not the work, right? You do the work that develops all the tools needed to perform well in the test, right? And I used powerlifting as a very basic example. There might be better ones, but I'm shooting from the hip.
I mean, it's the same thing in running. It's like, the 5K is the test, but there's a lot of drills and exercises that you have to do to get to the running, the actual race day. If that
all you do is run 5Ks to get ready for a 5K, you're going to be outperformed. And what I always tell people is, for runners, outlift the other runners, and for lifters, outrun the other lifters. That's how you get general, physical preparedness. I lost my train of thought because, like I said, the work is the reward, and there was something else.
This was going to be the oh shit moment. Yeah. It's like I resonated with that. Now I'm never going to resonate with anything. We'll come back to it.
That's all right. If it comes back, awesome.
I'm sure it'll come back into the ether. But
trainable menu.
Came back.
It did. The trainable menu. And I know who I stole that from. I stole that from a guy named Tony Gentlecore, a trainer out of Boston. Just opened a new location up there, if you're in the Boston area. And he stole it from somebody else. I can't remember. But the trainable menu, basically, if you're following some sort of strategy for meals, you will, if you're going to a restaurant, you'll look at that menu ahead of time. And there's maybe 50% of the menu that fits in your edible menu, right? Your trainable menu is what can you do, right? Everybody always you'll hear it often that exercise is not a punishment of what your body has done, but a celebration of what your body can do. And I'll take it one step further. It's a therapy to improve your body's abilities, right? A regenerative therapy to improve your body's abilities. So your trainable menu. After my accident, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't have my leg below my hip for more than 30 seconds before it felt like it was going to explode.
Jesus.
So what was my trainable menu at that point? Well, honestly, it wasn't much for the first couple of weeks, right? And then it was, taking 10 steps with a walker, and then it was walking with a cane. And once I could sit for a reasonable amount of time with my leg below my hip, then I could do some upper body work, right? Then I could do pull-ups. I could do push-ups, bench press, what I could start working. And when you work muscles, you get an anabolic response that helps the body heal, right? And it's going to help the legs heal faster as well. So the better you implement that trainable menu, whatever injury it is you're dealing with is going to heal faster.
Yeah, I think that's a very important message that a lot of
I'm glad I
people
remembered
don't.
that part.
Yeah, they don't, especially the very last part that you said about training. You have to train the muscle or the injury to recover from the injury. Something that's pretty close to that effect, I think is what you said.
You work
because a lot of
within
times,
you work within the abilities you have to improve those abilities. Yeah.
Right. So the thing is like, if you just succumb to the injury and then you never do anything to train through the injury and to strengthen that back up, the injury will linger indefinitely. Like you have to work that joint, that muscle, that whatever that injury was, if you want to build it back up to where it was, or better than. And that was like my biggest thing was too, is like, it's, you go to the doctor and like with my situation, they're like, don't run, because you have knee replacement, don't run. They advise me not to run. But the more that I do it, the better I feel. And I still have injuries. I mean, sometimes I overdo it a little bit, and that's the next topic I want to talk about. But
there we go.
I've noticed that when I start training it, like it got better. Like I couldn't run 100 meters originally.
So that's
and
trainable
now
menu.
like 5K.
Yeah, you're talking. I don't remember if we talked about this last week either, but when I got out of the Marine Corps in June of 2000, I could not run 50 yards without my knees feeling like, when I checked out, the military doctor was like, the Navy doctor was like, hey, you're looking at knee replacement. And I was 24 years old at the time.
Jeez.
You're looking at knee replacement in the next 5-10 years. And I was like, and he was a doctor. So, I mean, I guess, but, I was fortunate enough to connect with a trainer who came from a Marine Corps family. He helped me out a lot. And 3-4 months after starting with him, I was able to run 3 miles. And I always say it wasn't pain-free at that point, but I was able to run 3 miles because exercise is a regenerative therapy that improves your body's abilities when properly applied. So it's all about development. So the walking protocol that I have you guys on, it's gait pattern development. So just what you were what is gait pattern? Just what you were talking about. As your left foot comes forward, your right hand goes forward. As your right foot goes forward, your left hand goes forward, and you move in that gait pattern. That's babies crawling to standing to walking to running to climbing, right? But if you just throw intensity, this is what your doctor should have said. He should have said, don't run with intensity just yet.
Yeah.
Practice your gait pattern to develop it, which is walking. And the walking protocol I sent you guys is I have you guys on is built around that. So that's where we come back to squatting. We use different types of loaded squat patterns to develop your squat pattern, to develop your hinge pattern, in exercise commonly referred to as deadlift or hip thrust or kettlebell swings. And pushing and pulling with the upper body, all that stuff. It's what range of motion can you work safely in through the pattern, with what load, how much weight, how much resistance are we moving through, as Einstein says, everything in life needs to be as simple as possible, but not simpler. So it's not just beating the shit out of your body for an hour. Yeah. Right. But it's,
doing it.
Squat, hinge, push, pull, lunge, gait.
Yep. And then, like one of the things that like for people that are starting out, especially if they're overweight, what a lot of like people don't take into consideration is that your center of gravity is different, because you're carrying your weight usually, like for men it's in the gut, so it has a tendency to pull you forward. It makes carrying things like medicine balls and stuff like that more difficult. It makes it harder to do like crunches, because you have that physical mass there that's preventing you from getting the range of motion that you would if you didn't have it. And it's when you try to go into those programs that you didn't research and you try to go to those movements from zero to, those type of movements, there's a lot of frustration and there's not a lot of progress made because you're not getting the correct range of motion, where there's alternatives, that you can do to those movements that give you what you need to get past it. And it's like, but it's just learning, it's looking to build a workout, like you said, a trainable menu. I mean, that was like an aha moment for me, because it's like, okay, what can I do? Because progress is progress, and it's not the same for everybody.
Yeah, man.
And that's what's really powerful,
And then it's what progress are you measuring as well? Because, if you're looking at the scale, most people today, it can be, especially if you don't understand it. Let's talk about a couple of things.
I was going to say, let's talk about that, because I've been having that issue as of the last 2 weeks. I felt like, man, I hit a plateau. I got down to 190. I've been hanging there for 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, man, I should have at least dropped a little bit of weight, at least something. You know what I mean?
What all are you measuring?
What do you mean, what all am I measuring?
Body fat, inches.
Yeah. Body fat, inches, weight.
Height, girth, length.
Yeah, that's all freaking not accessible. It just says NA next to it. I don't know what that means. But
so
not applicable.
I'll tell you. Look, it's the more, if you just have one metric, most people today need to recomp, which is, it's getting called recomposition, which simply put means gain some muscle, lose some fat. Now, you'll often hear people say, we need to turn all that fat into muscle. They're two completely different tissues. One cannot become the other. By the time you're 18, you have just about all the fat cells, all the muscle fibers you're going to have, right? A few exceptions there. But so you're not going to turn fat into muscle. Does that make sense? Do you guys?
I know exactly what you're saying.
But you'll hear people say, we're going to turn that fat into muscle. Fat is a fuel storage cells, right? Muscle is an engine. So like I said, by the time you're 18, you'll have just about all the fat cells and muscle fibers you're going to have. The good and bad of it is they can grow and shrink to some pretty incredibly different sizes, right? So exercise alone is not great for fat loss. For weight loss, let's just say that. Exercise alone is not great for weight loss, because there's an energy balance equation that needs to come into consideration there. So do you know what a calorie is?
No.
Lightness, yes.
Back in 2012, when I was working in a big box gym, over the course of that year, before that I was learning that like nobody knows what a calorie actually is. So I asked over the course of that year, like 316 people, something like that question in consultations, running booths, walking the gym floor, just talking to people. 3 people got it right. So less than 1% of the population in my super scientific study actually knew what a calorie is. So it's a measurement of energy. It's the amount of energy it takes to heat 1 gram of water 14 to 15 degrees Celsius. So a very exact.
That's what I was going to guess, but I didn't know. I don't want to sound like an idiot.
I was going to say energy too, but I wasn't going to go out there.
I totally was going to say that.
And I knew it had to do with heating water, because I remember that from science class, but I didn't know the aspect of that. 100%.
I just knew it was a measurement of energy. That's all.
That's all right. But understanding that, right, is important. So, because you'll hear, when you ask that, you'll hear people, they'll say things like, well, that's what makes you fat, right? Sure, if you eat enough of it and don't move enough, right? But that helps you, because then calories burned are you're expelling energy, whether you're strength training, doing cardio, whatever. So exercise alone is not going to have a huge impact. There has to be a nutrition component if we're focusing on weight loss, and specifically we should be focusing on fat loss. I'm speaking about the average person, the average American today, right?
Right.
So if we're looking at a recomp, we want to spend time, just like I said earlier, outrun the lifters, outlift the runners. Spend time in things that are going to increase strength, increase muscle mass. That has properly done is going to have a significant increase or a beneficial increase on bone density, ligament and tendon tensile strength. Mark Ripto has this great quote: "Stronger people are harder to kill and more useful in general." It is literally making you harder to kill, because muscle mass is a great predictor for against all-cause mortality. Even cancer patients have a greater risk of survival if they go into their cancer having greater muscle mass. Now, muscle will help. Muscle is what burns calories. It is what burns fat. So it can help you burn fat, but again, that nutritional component needs to be there. And then there's proteins, carbs, and fats, and we can talk about what it can be a little bit individualized how those need to be broken up. But I can tell you, number one, prioritizing protein is just a huge win for most people. That is one of the most common things that I have people focusing on in the beginning. Protein is what builds muscle. It's what keeps your organs healthy. It's what helps increase bone density. It's what fuels metabolism. So if you're not getting in enough of that, it's going to be hard to get the best benefits from any exercise program that you're in. Complete proteins as well. So there's usually animal proteins. Yeah.
I know your meme was absolutely hysterical to me.
Which
that
one?
One where you said about the animals that if they have to die, something along those lines.
Okay,
I was laughing about it.
I said if it can't die, it's not food.
It's not food. Yeah, if it can't die, it's not food.
But that's okay.
Well, that's
so
what plants
not just
do.
Animals.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is just
too.
plants. I was thinking the same thing. As plants still are a living thing.
The point is, I don't know if anything dies to make a Twinkie, right? So that's not food. Let's be clear about something. That is food-like product.
Right.
Right. It is engineered, designed to not be satiating, to
make you want more.
I don't know if you've had one
and
recently.
More and more.
But yeah, I wouldn't call them, like when I was a kid, I thought they were delicious. I had one maybe a year or two ago, and I was like, it's fucking gross, right? but it was weird because like I wanted another one,
Yeah, that's how the Twinkie was. Now I know why Woody Harrelson was so apt finding it in Zombieland, because it's like once you have one, it's like you got to have more. It's
that's right.
It's mind blowing.
That's case in point, man. It's food-like product. It's not satiating, so it doesn't fill you up. It provides minimal, if any, nourishment, and it's just making you want to eat more. Right?
It's one hell of a high. It's one hell of a high.
Yeah, man. So it's very close to how drugs function.
Yeah. No, well, it is. I mean, that's what the food industry came up with. They realized that they turned food into drugs. I mean, food's always been drugs because food is medicine, but they literally turned it into drugs with sugars, and fat. So it's like if they add sugar or they add fat or salt, they can make it where you crave it. Like you're like, I have to have that, even though it's not good for you. It's not satiating.
If you have minimally processed, well-prepared food, like so. My wife is I married Martha Stewart, man. She's an amazing cook. She will make homemade bread, and I'll put just a little bit of butter on there and sprinkle some salt on it. Bread, butter, and salt, and it is fantastic. Like I could overeat that easily, right? But it's not. I mean, again, it's calories. If I overeat it, I'm gonna gain weight, gain fat. If I overeat it and don't get the right activity in. But it's satiating, so it's harder to overeat, and it's just not going to have all the other negative impacts that ultra processed foods would have, and that's just an example, a case in point of what minimally processed foods can do for you in fighting the urges to overeat.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the other day, like I've been off sugar since like August of last year. As far as added sugar, like I don't add any sugar to my drinks.
That's a great way to approach it, man.
I don't buy anything. I don't buy anything that says added sugar on the label, because there's natural sugars like fruits and stuff like that has sugars in it, and sugar's not bad because your brain needs it. It's the added sugars that's the problem that comes in, because they're adding more sugar to it to make it sweeter. And it was funny because the other day we went to a restaurant, and I normally drink unsweet tea. And I took a sip of the tea, and it tasted sweet. And I handed it to, my wife. I said, I think this is sweet tea. And she took it and like almost like spit it out. She's like, oh, this isn't sweet at all. Like, this is like sour. And I was just like, oh, that's weird. So she handed me her sweet tea and I took a sip of it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not sweet. And then I realized it was just a different type of tea leaf that the restaurant used. It made it sweeter tasting because it was its own sweet tea. They said, yeah, we just use it. It's different, like a wildflower sweet tea or something. And,
and so
no sugar.
Like your taste buds aren't deadened like they were when you were just inundated with all that added sugar.
So what I read, I went back and had to Google it, and read about it. And basically, like after, I think it said 14 days of not having added sugar or like extreme amounts of sugar, your tongue actually sheds those extra sugar receptors that it's put in place, and it gets back to a normal taste pattern. Like food starts tasting different when you start taking all the processed crap out, and all of the stuff. So like, like my coffee now, like black coffee doesn't taste like bitter anymore. Like it actually I can taste the different complexities of the coffee, which is super interesting because before it was like cream and sugar and it was like coffee was coffee. And now it's like I can taste the different coffee from the different regions because my tongue is like not inundated with sugar receptors because of all the high processed sugar. And I wonder if the same thing is true for like added fat and added salt. And it's wild how they've discovered, how they can trick us into buying more product because they make it like a drug, like McDonald's French fries. They're amazing when you first eat them, like right out of the bag. You're like, oh my God. But 15 minutes later, they taste like shit. But you always want them. Like once you start, it's like your body craves it, and it's wild. And it remembers, like if you don't have it for a long time, then you have one, your body's like, oh, I remember how amazing that was. I want to go back and get more. So it's like, I know it definitely lures you in. So it's really wild when you mention that.
And that's why like having a plan for food is important, right? Not saying I'm actually saying not to be on a strict meal plan, right? Because that can have detrimental effects as well. It's having a plan for how you eat. Like I wrote an article years ago called "Crock Pots Save Lives." It's a really easy way to have like minimally processed whole foods available. It's easy to do, but there's all these meal prep services out there where you can have.
Hey, before you continue on with that, let me jump in on that crock pot thing. We do crock pots once or twice a week, and I'm telling you, they're a time saver.
Yeah, 100%. But then, like, I'm also the guy, like, I don't like the idea. I think, did we talk about this? Like, I don't like the idea of a cheat day or a cheat meal.
Yeah, we did.
Correct.
So, we talked about a treat day.
It's a treat day or a treat meal. It is part of the plan. You're not going off plan. That's important for you to know. This is part of the plan. Health and fitness is about getting more out of life. It is, right? If you structure it properly, it's about getting more out of life. It's not about endless sacrifice.
I don't know who coined the term, but I fell in love with it. He said he doesn't call it a diet. He calls it a live it because he's not trying to die. And that resonated with me because I was like, he's like, I want to create a plan that I can live with for the rest of my life. I'm not creating a diet where I'm dying while I'm doing it. And I was like,
last week, and that is solid.
Yeah, the live it. So I love that mindset because it's like you're building a meal plan that you can live with every day. Because the reality is, if you can't live with it, you're not going to sustain it because your willpower is eventually going to give up. If you cut out all the foods that you love and that you want, eventually one day you will cave. I mean, it's just a matter of time because it's working against you. Time is working against you. You're not going to always have 100% willpower because no matter how far along the lines are. So you got to find something that you can, satiate that with. And oftentimes, people like that, if they don't cave one way, they cave in another area of their life because somewhere the willpower gives up. So
I had a client I was talking with this morning. She's on her second week, and she was saying how this is the time when she typically starts falling off the wagon. She's like, I always make great progress in the first 2 weeks, and she's doing great. She's like, and then I find myself giving into this or that, and I was like, okay, so do that. Like, go ahead and she was talking about cake pops. I was like, okay, so go have the cake pop. Have a cake pop. You're allowed to.
Building your plan.
Right. And she was like, well, what do you mean I'm allowed to? I was like, you're allowed to have a cake pop.
One cake pop.
Go have that and enjoy it. And she came back and she was like, yeah, that was like, I enjoyed it. I was like, okay. And then what? She's like, and then I moved on with life. Sweet.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
How cool is
That's
that?
it.
You had the treat, right? You're doing the work. You can't not ever enjoy life.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is a surefire way to fail. So, man.
The key that you said there was like, have a cake pop. One cake pop. Because so often what happens, like, I was watching, like I said, go back to Instagram. There was a guy he was on there, and he said he held up 2 cookies. He held up 2 homemade, full fat, regular cookies, chocolate chip. And then he held up like another cookie that was like one of those fitness cookies. And he said, listen, he's like, this cookie is not going to satiate your desire for a cookie. He's like, this one will. And he's like, if you eat one of these, it's not going to destroy your diet for your entire life because it's one cookie. It's an extra 50 calories over this. But you eat this, you'll feel like crap because you won't scratch the itch. And it's just going to kick the can down the road a little further. So have the damn cookie, eat it, enjoy it, love the taste of it, but just have one cookie. Don't eat the whole freaking bag because you didn't knock yourself off your plan. You didn't cheat. You're not a bad person. You just enjoyed the cookie because you deserved it. And then move on. He's like, don't eat the styrofoam tasting piece of crap because it's not going to do anything for you. And I was like, damn, that's like pretty much exactly what you're saying. It's like, it's a treat. You deserve a treat. You're doing a good job, but it's just a treat. If you're going Dairy Queen, get the kid size cup and enjoy the kid size cup of the flavor that you want, and then move on with the rest of your life and keep eating within your plan. Don't order the triple extra large family pack and go home and binge on it because now you feel like a piece of crap because you broke your plan. Like
that's the other thing, man.
And that's what people do. Yeah.
Do pay attention to how you feel, right? That's something. My son is 5, my daughter's 3, right? Mm-hmm. When they want to eat something that I know is maybe not the best for them, we sometimes we'll say yes, and we'll have the conversation of, all right, buddy, you're going to have this. You want this? I want you to pay attention to it. It comes off a lot smoother than this. I want you to pay attention to how you feel after you eat this, right? Because food will have that effect on you. It will. Right. Your energy levels, your emotions, you will feel different. So I want you to pay attention to that. Think about how teaching them to think about and notice how food affects you. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing the biggest takeaway that I've taken away this time around is like, I just listen to my body more on all things. I'm like, okay, if I eat something and it makes me feel like crap, then I'm like, I'm not going to eat that anymore, And because it's not making me feel good. If my body's saying take a day off of working out, and this is another topic, one of the things that I ran into too is not listening to my body on rest days. And because, the inner competitor in me would be like, no, you need to work out every single day. Like if you're not working out every single day, you're losing ground. And that's not sustainable.
On rest days, right? Yeah. Take those rest days, right? Yeah. I have my workout today is just steps. I have 15-minute walking protocol, right?
Yeah.
So I still mix that in my program. I've been doing that for the past 12 years now. Yeah. So if it's a rest day, then take that rest day.
Right.
Now, if it's a workout day and you're not feeling it, I'm going to speak in generalities here, right? If you're throwing up or something like that, you can't get off the toilet, obviously, take the rest day, right? But if you're like, I'm not feeling this workout this morning, what I try to practice and what I encourage my clients to do, go do the first 2 or 3 sets, right? Because you won't always be motivated.
Yeah.
There's like 10% of the time where it'll be hard to stop you from getting your workout done. Like you'll be off the charts motivated and you'll go get it done then. Those are the days you need to have that voice in your head be like, all right, you're in our 40s. Like do the workout and just the workout, right? Don't go ham, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then there's like 80% of the time where you're going through the motions. You go in, you get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the other 10% where you wake up and you're like, I'm not feeling this. Go do the first 2 or 3 sets.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're putting fight or flight in there.
Mm-hmm.
Your body doesn't know you're just moving heavyweight. It thinks you have to do that.
Yeah.
So if you're healthy, if you're not injured, if you're not actually sick, if you've got even if it's on the low end, healthy amounts of sleep, your endocrine system is going to respond and give you a hormone cascade that is going to have you feel motivated, right?
Right.
So commit to those first 2 or 3 sets. If that doesn't happen, then you got 2 or 3 sets in, and maybe your body is like, hey, something's off. You need to take a rest day. That's listening to your body.
Yep.
Trying to get the work in, and if your body's like, nope, cool, take the rest day.
Yeah. Yeah. The important part of that statement is listen to your body, not your mind and not your lizard brain, not the little part in your brain that says, oh, I don't feel like it. Because what I'm talking about is not the mental, I don't feel like it. I'm talking about the physical, I don't feel like it. Like there's a very distinct difference between the two. One is you're just being lazy and you're trying to find excuses not to do it. And the other is you actually need to like listen. Like, if you're going to pick something up and you're feeling some pain and you're not feeling some discomfort, or your form is complete shit, then stop. Like there's no point in doing it with bad form, because that's when you get hurt. It's like the minute that you're like in that Tabata plank exercise, you said the minute that your form breaks, the minute that you lose the arch in your back, you're at the point of diminishing returns. Like you should just stop at that point and take a break, rest for an extra set if you need to, another 20 seconds, and then get up and do it again. Because there's no point in pushing past with bad form, because that's when injuries happen, and that's when you're not doing it the way it needs to be done. So you're not moving forward. But that's totally different than listening to the brain. Yeah.
The goal of that exercise is to teach the muscles of your core to keep your spine in a neutral, natural position.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're strengthening dysfunction.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was really, really important. Like when the form breaks down, stop, and then I was listening to a podcast earlier, another gentleman, and it was interesting because he said, one of the things too that I ran into at my age was like, and Brad had this experience the other day at the 5K, our competitive nature wants us to compete. Like we want to push. And it's now like our wiser selves that need to step in and say, is it worth the outcome for me to compete? Like for instance, Brad told me to take off and run, and I did, because I got to a point where like, I was like, I feel like I need to jog, because number one, I couldn't keep the walking pace he had, because his walk is a lot faster than mine. So I started jogging and running. And then he, at the end of the race, was like, man, when I saw you up there, like I wanted to take off. And he's like, I knew I could, but it wasn't worth it. So that's where the wisdom comes in, going, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to push yourself?
You don't have to show up to every challenge, right?
Yeah, you don't have to show up. You don't have to show off.
You don't have to show up to every fight you're invited to.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
You don't, man.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
That's how it was. That's how it was in that 5K for me. It was just like, okay, you know what? I found a good pace. I was able to maintain it. I just had my headphones in, and I was like, you know what? I don't care what anybody else is doing around me. I'm just gonna finish. You know what I mean? And just get through it and not push myself. And I kept reflecting every time I wanted to take off. I kept reflecting back how I got hurt, and it really kept me from saying, hey, yeah, go ahead, be a dumbass and freaking start running again with this torn meniscus, because you idiot, And I just referred to what I did that particular morning. Was I was already probably, I don't know, Mike, I would say it was about 30 days into training. You know what I mean? And I thought, man, I'm back to top form. I could pick up my pace just a little bit more. And that's exactly what I did. I picked up my pace. And then when I saw that hole and I stepped to that left and tore it, didn't even feel it. I knew my ego was not my amigo right then and there. My ego got the best of me, and now I'm paying the price for it.
My ego is not my amigo. Man, I like that.
Yes, 100%. So that's where
I don't know where we stole that
from you, Brad.
But that's where, actually, that's an old saying. It's a coaching saying. We used to talk about it when I'd coach. We would say, man, because these guys would come in with these kids would come in with these big ass egos. And I just remember back in the day, we could actually grab them You know what I mean? And so now you can't grab anybody because, you're assaulting my child. But I coached unlimited weight 13-year-olds, and they were like, I mean, everybody's bigger than me anyway because I'm a small dude. But I remember slinging this kid, man, from his jersey, and I said, man, your ego is not your amigo. Let it go. Like that. And he just like, duh, looking at me, like in this helmet. But so that's where I thought on that 5K, I was like, I'm just gonna have a nice steady soldier style pace, not the flipping the hips out, you know what I mean, like you see those professional walkers do, but you know what I'm saying. And
yeah, he was moving though.
But I was scooting, man, because I was lapping people, and I was like, okay. But
yeah,
but that's how that was my approach on it.
So one of the questions I had too that I run into, how do you properly gauge what weights to start at when you're doing exercises, and then when do you know you've reached the right working weight for the exercise? Like, because I've noticed that sometimes
for me personally or for my clients.
Either way you want to answer it, I guess. Like, because like for instance, on one of the exercises that you had, I started off with 20 pounds and I was like, okay, this is way too easy. And then I went to 30 pounds and I was like, okay, this is way too easy. And then I did 50 pounds and it was still really easy. And I was like, and I finished the whole workout into 3 sets. And I was like, I don't know if I did enough on this one, but I just logged it and then moved on. The next time I'll start off at the next higher weight. But it's like, I didn't know where to start. So
I mean, you're just starting off. So
yeah,
like generally, assuming we're talking about squats or lunges or something.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to have
this was a chest press, the dumbbell chest presses on
okay.
this particular exercise,
So start too light. Like I would,
yeah.
This is, if you're in your first week, 2, 3, whatever, I'd so much rather you leave a workout thinking, man, I probably could have done a little more than have you leave the workout thinking, man, I probably did too much. Right. Because you have responsibilities in life. You have to show up for work. You have to show up for your family. Hold on. You have to show up for your family first. You have to show up for work. You have to show up for all these responsibilities that you've committed to. And an exercise program needs to make you better and more capable in all those roles. Right. So for me, like I'm looking, I want to be a better man, husband, father, coach, entrepreneur.
Right.
I don't want to be a better exerciser. Right. My exercise program is designed to help me in all those roles. And then, I want to run some obstacle course races later this year. I'd like to get back and do a spar in a boxing ring. When my son's old enough where I can take a jiu-jitsu class with him, I want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So my exercise program is designed for all of that stuff. And then I think we talked about like the lifetime legacy goal. Like when my kids are, around 20, I'm in my 60s, go do some adventure trip of their choosing with them. Right? Not to be a better exerciser, to increase my functional lifespan, to get more days in the life, more life in the days. Promise I'm getting around to answering your question here. So where do I start? I'm working on movement pattern development, squat, hinge, push, pull, lunge. So I'll start with body weight or very light weight in any of those, right? So when I go in and I do, if I'm, warming up for dumbbell bench press, I'm going to grab, like, I do my total body warm up, right? I make sure the joints are moving, minimal discomfort, pain-free, all that good stuff. Then I get into the movement, if we're talking about bench press, shoulders down away from the ears, shoulder blades in the back pockets, I'm able to press full range of motion. Yep. And I'm starting with at most half the weight that I plan to work with in my working sets, right? To just see how it's feeling. And then, I can have a weight I want to get to.
Yeah.
But especially, since my accident, which was, 6.5 years ago now, it's, I'm not committed to that number
anymore. Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah. I'm committed to working
goals change
to fatigue or technical failure. If it happens before that number, awesome. If I feel like I can get a little bit more, because, everything in my life, like how much sleep I was able to get, depending on what kind of night the kids had, how much, how I was able to eat, depending on, a lot of it is depending on what kind of Monday or day the kids had. Things that are happening in business, like if the business is going haywire and things are overly stressful, that's going to affect, what I'm able to put in there.
Yep.
So I just, but I'm able to push all that aside, barring anything catastrophic happening in any of those arenas, and have my, how long is a good workout? Well, it's up to an hour. If I'm in the gym longer than an hour, I question what the hell I'm doing there, right? Normally my workouts are like 45 minutes, and maybe a little bit under that. So it's I'm focused on strengthening the movement pattern, squat, hinge, push, pull, lunge, whatever it is I'm working on in that workout that day, and I'm paying attention to how I've been doing this professionally for over 20 years now, but I started working out in gyms in like 89, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I'm answering like how I find that weight.
Right.
For clients, I'm watching how they move. Is their spine maintaining that shape as it changes position, moving through the squat, moving through the deadlift, moving through the hip thrust, moving through pushing and pulling?
Right.
If it's not, bad form is any movement that's non-intended, any unintentional movement. If they're compromising movement patterns, they're getting bad form, there's unintended movement, then we need to bring the challenge down. And then teaching them how to monitor that themselves. This is a long way around to answer this question, but yeah, man. Does that make sense? Does that bring up any other questions?
It does. So I had one question that popped up in there. You'd mentioned that you do like a warm-up set at half the weight of your working load before you actually do the actual sets that you are going to do. So like when you have a prescribed workout, and it's like says like 3 sets of 12. Do you do a 50% first set to warm up on that exercise, like of 12, and then you do the actual 3 sets of 12 at the higher weight? And do you stair step up, or do you stair step down, or do you?
I will get up to. I'm doing at least one warm up set again. So
okay.
I'm speaking, about my training.
Yeah.
Knowing the injuries that I've had. So I'm doing at least one warm up set. If it feels good, if the movement feels good after that warm up set, right? I've done my general warm up already. Then I'm going into my working sets, and I'm going to get, whatever. Let's say I'm set for 3 working sets of 12 that day.
Yep.
I'm going to get up to 3 working sets of 12, right?
Okay.
And if I get, 3 sets of 12, or I get my first 2 sets of 12 at a set weight, and I'm like, I think I could have got a little bit more. Depending on the phase I'm in, depending on, what I'm currently working towards and how the movement felt, I might go for as many reps as I can get as technically sound in the next one. So I might get like 14 or 15, or I might take the weight up a little bit on that last
one.
Right?
I got you. Yeah.
But if I finish my second set and I'm like, hitting technical failure at like the last on like rep 12, then I only get 2 sets there.
Okay.
Right. I might go get the third as well. So, there's no single answer, right?
I got you.
Because there's time factors in there. There's how I'm feeling, right?
Yeah.
So
like on the inverted
I'm
row,
listening
like
to my body is.
So like on the inverted row, like I did, on the third set, I only got to 11 before my form was starting to fall apart. So I just stopped at 11, and I was like, I'm done.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So because
you hear note and then put that in your notes for next time.
Which I did. Yep, I did.
Perfect. Yeah. So that way, like those notes are for you and for me, right? So I can ask questions, and you can refer back to next time.
Right. And then you hear this term thrown out a lot, like progressive overload, which is something that was kind of new to me. I don't know if you've heard it before, Brad, but basically it's increasing either the rep or the weight every other week, like going in the gym, knowing how much more you're going to push or how many more reps you're going to do, so that way you can constantly increase the volume of the muscle. Is that something that you prescribed to, or is that new, or I
Progressive
really didn't know anything
overload.
about it.
Progressive overload is an ideal. It works in a lab or
Okay.
in a professional athlete setting, right? Where like James Harrison, do you guys remember him? I like using him as an example.
Yeah.
He played for the Steelers, and this was probably 2016, maybe even earlier than that, where it was shared all over social media that he spends $250,000 on his recovery side of his strength conditioning program, right? We're not even talking about what he pays his trainers, the equipment he bought, the gym he built. We're talking about the money he spends to recover from his workouts, right? So are we going to be able to follow linear progressive overload for that guy? Probably, right? Because like those, we're speaking about athletes in general now, at that level,
Right.
the amount of money that is resting on them to make other people, right? They have therapists they see on a maybe daily basis to make sure everything's functioning up here, right? So their profession is their job.
Right.
So what I was just talking about, for me, like, the kids might get sick. I might not be able to get a full night's sleep. Maybe something happened where I have to take one of them to the doctor. Maybe I miss a meal or something like that. I have a plan. The plan's adaptable. So yeah, progressive overload is increasing the total load you're putting on your body each time you go in there. But when the rubber meets the road, man, you have to consider all these other factors. And that's why I talk about, we come back to what we talked about a little bit ago, listening to your body. When you wake up in the morning and you're set to work out that day, there's numbers on the paper that if you hit them, you are following progressive overload. But if you wake up and you feel like shit and you commit to those first 2 or 3 sets, you go in there and your body's like, nope, this ain't fucking happening. Your progressive overload isn't working for you, but it is an ideal that you can plan to follow and see how you measure how you perform against. But we're not playing football. We're playing the sport of life. That is our game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yep, 100%. That was the biggest takeaway that I had in the past from talking to you, was it's looking at the long game. Like, what kind of, you mentioned the first podcast you did with us, what kind of old person do you want to be?
Yeah, man.
And that was like a revolutionary idea, For Brad, that would just be, what kind of person do you want to be? But
oh, look at him. Hey, he's getting his water in, man. Hey, good job, Brad. But there was years ago.
Let's go.
This younger guy who was on social media, and he was talking about progressive overload. Each week, it was that, very loud talker. Each week, you need to make sure you do more total work. And I'm like, yeah, man, the mom of 4 is watching this and thinking, well, whatever.
Right.
It's just not, again, that's great for athletes. It's great for, single people who, have nothing but time. Maybe they're still living with, mom and dad, and that's great if that's where you are. It's a lot easier to apply in that setting.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. You see people like that all over the place, because you got the guys like, I like ride Pelotons, and I sometimes do the recovery rides, low impact recovery ride, which is basically the entire design on that is just to keep the blood flowing in your legs and just do recovery. It's about motion, not about effort. And you'll see guys on there like putting like 500, output scores out there, blowing everybody away. And it's like, okay, you just missed the entire idea of what this entire ride is about.
But here, this is where nuance comes into play, because when you it's hard to get sore on a bike.
Yeah.
Because muscle soreness is a response from the eccentric load. Okay. There's 4 phases of muscle contraction.
Yep.
Right, so I'm just going to use biceps as the example. There's the concentric phase where I'm shortening the muscle.
Yep.
Right? We're under tension. Then there's the static phase where I'm holding weight under tension.
Right.
The eccentric phase, I'm moving with gravity the muscle is extending under tension, and then there's another static phase at this one, right?
Yeah.
So if I had a 1-1-1 1-1-1-1 tempo, it would be 1 second here, 1 second here, 1 second here, 1 second here.
Yeah.
Your muscle, the more time you spend in an eccentric phase, if you want your biceps to be sore, curl and then do negatives. Come down as slowly.
Real slow. Yeah.
Again, do negatives.
I've always do negatives.
The eccentric, well, hold on. The eccentric phase is where muscle soreness comes from. Let me correct myself. The eccentric phase is the greatest contributor to muscle soreness, making the muscles sore. So there's an eccentric phase in lifting, right? Because you got to lower the weight back down. Squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, push-ups all have an eccentric phase. Cycling doesn't.
Yeah.
You're constantly pushing that pedal. Even when you come back up, your hamstring
and pulling.
Your hamstring is shortening. Your muscles are never under tension while extending in cycling.
No. Yeah.
But you can cycle your ass off and your legs likely won't get sore. Right? So that can help with recovery. Now you can also overtax your nervous system, your cardiovascular system.
Yeah.
But it is still a good you can keep intensity up and recover on a bike.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying on that. It's just funny to see on the thing because everybody else is like, in the low 70s, and then you get the one guy that's out there just like 500 to get that number one spot.
It depends on what the person's working for, and you never know. Like it may be a couple different people jumping on the bike and just trying to get that number up. I've seen people do crazy shit like that because that's important.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. It's funny. It's just funny when you see stuff like that because you see it quite a bit on there because everybody wants that number one spot, so they'll go into like the recovery rides and they'll just like run it. I mean, in order to get that output, you have to be running like 60-70% the entire time.
When I used to coach CrossFit, it was, there were sometimes people that would, report inflated numbers up on the whiteboard and it's who cares? Like I don't. Yeah,
we used to do charity golf events. One of my buddies, well, I didn't. One of my buddies was telling me about this, and he was like, he would hand out trophies at the end instead of first place. It'd be like best cheater. Because he's like, people would like write incredibly low scores so they'd win because there's no try. It's all on the honor system, So it'd be like, second best cheater didn't cheat hard enough because it was like, awesome. Whoever, because people would write like insane, like you're looking like they're like -14, under par. And you're like, yeah, he's like, there's no way that this person's 14 under par. Like, this is better than like.
Bet you'd be on the Masters tour.
Like, he'd be on the Masters tour, and it's like this whole scramble. It's like there's no way they were 14 under par. Like,
dude, I was the king of snowmen. That's all I'm gonna say. I was the king of the snowman on the course. That's what I tell everybody. I'll be like, man, I'm only here for the golf cart and the beer. Have a nice day.
Yeah,
because I'm horrible at golf. That game. I mean, I know we're changing gears off fitness, but that game is the most frustrating, piss you off game. At 1 minute you're like great, the next stroke you hate it, and the golf clubs come out flying. You know what I mean? I've seen too many helicopters going across the greenway.
It's a game that teaches patience. That's what that's what I thought. That's what I think of it.
Exactly what it does.
Because you can be having, I can't tell you like when I used to play, how many times I'd have amazing round of golf up until the 18th hole. And then I'd flub the entire thing, and it would just be like, I cannot believe I just had this shitty of a hole. It would just be like,
you say you were getting away from fitness, but we're not really, man. It's I cannot think of a sport or activity where I've trained someone where they haven't felt strength training has helped them perform better. Multiple times there's been golfers who've been like, this is really helping my golf game. I had a guy years ago I trained who was a fencer, competitive fencer. And, 6 weeks into the program, he came back. He was like, hey, I had a tournament this weekend and I did a lot better. Like I was halfway through, I was thinking, man, I can actually win this. And I haven't won a tournament in years. So I had a lady who was, she did ballroom dancing, and it made her better at that.
Yeah.
when I talk about get strong and do stuff or get strong and do shit, like it's
the
well-rounded strength training program will make you better at everything.
I still wanted to throw a joke in there
and do shit. I like that.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to throw a joke in there when you said fencing. I was like, what was this guy's name? What was this amigo's name? How fast do we put the fence up?
Take it there.
Wow. Yeah, we do live in Florida, so I knew he was going to go that route at some point.
It was swords.
It's like when somebody says, you need to know Jesus, and I go, I do, man. He comes over and cuts my grass every weekend.
My grass every weekend.
I'm like, Jesus, right? And they're like, no. I always piss my dad off with that one because he's so religious. I always go, he comes over every Sunday. He comes over, man. Cuts on the weekends and everything. And he's just like, whatever.
I saw this thing and cracked me up, and we could probably leave on this because it's kind of funny. It was an Uber driver, and it says, Jesus is arriving soon. It's like he's arriving in a white Camry, and he's like, I didn't think the Raptor was gonna happen like this. I was like, oh my god, that's priceless.
So do you tip him or do you stim him? That's the question. But
Jesus is coming.
Jesus is coming. But Brandon, listen, I would love to have you back on next week for the next part of this, and that is to talk about nutrition. The importance of nutrition along the way with your training. Are you okay with that?
Probably. As I don't know. Hold on. You guys, I told you guys we bought a house. We're moving over these next 2 weeks. So I should be able to make that work. I would love to be able to make that work.
If not, when you get done, we'll bring you back on, and then we can pick up where we left off, because I'm sure the listeners will want to pick up from that.
Because I also wanted to do another episode after nutrition on sleep, because that's something that I think men and women neglect,
and recovery
in this day and age.
Oh yeah, I will tell you that there's if there's any CrossFitters in your audience, like they probably know the 10 physical skills, right? Mm-hmm. Strength, power, accuracy, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, right? I can never remember all 10 from the hip, but strength by and large, is considered the greatest impact, right? It is the one, because it's called strength and conditioning, right? So it has the greatest impact on all other. But what I always say is there's an 11th physical skill that has a greater impact, and that's sleep. You can warm up for sleep. Your last hour or two before bed gets you ready to go to sleep. You can measure sleep with all these different, Whoop and the Oura Ring and all that stuff. And if you prioritize quality sleep, you can't always get the right amount, right? But make sure you're, minimally getting that 6 to 7 hours is what you plan for. 8 hours is great. But if you can prioritize getting quality sleep, it's going to make everything easier, even making better nutrition choices. Yeah.
Yep, and I think that's a great topic we can talk on. So I think it'll be awesome.
For sure. So we got 2 more times with you, Brandon, at least.
Yep, at least.
At least.
I'm sure I'll come up with a third option too.
Yes, exactly. So listen, guys, don't forget, head over to thedailybm.com where you can follow us on all our socials. You can also head over to Rumble and over to YouTube and like and subscribe there. Also, use the promo code DailyBM over at masondangerco.com. You'll get 20% off on all items. Don't forget, it's all man shit. Get over there, buy some stuff. Most guys these days have a beard. If not, hey, sissy, get a beard. Anyway, that being said, Mikey, you got anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, where can our listeners find you, Brandon, if they want to find more information or sign up for your virtual training program?
Yeah, website is bmfcoaching.com. You can get on my newsletter right there. You can also get my latest ebook, which is on the Turkish Get Up. You can find me on Instagram at BMFCoach or Coach Brandon Mancini. Those are both my accounts. Connect me on Facebook, Brandon K. Mancini, Mancine. Right? Okay. Yeah. But I had to throw that in there. So any of those will work.
Fuck you, Brad.
It's nice to know he fits him in the asshole, though. And with that, we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Have a good one.
Deuces.